Here on the Field of 68. We are, of course, sponsored by our friends at BetRivers. I am Jim Root, your host today, joined by Kai McEwen, Matthew Cox, the rest of the Weave. It is not a huge slate. Of course, there are only 14 games. That's okay. This is the calm before the storm, Mr. McEwen. We've got big-time college hoops tomorrow, arguably the best day of the entire season. But let's talk past real quick before we look ahead. Any takeaways from yesterday or even Wednesday? I will give you Wednesday leeway because we do not have a show. What do you got for us?
I got no takeaways. My only takeaway is, hey, the fellas had some wings last night. They were tasty. The Weave gathered around with a few buddies, had some brews, had some wings. It was a good time. Great time. I'm excited for today's slate. Even more excited about tomorrow's map, but this one, we'll give it its due. We'll give it its due.
Yeah, and a decent slate on Sunday as well. Kind of an odd shifting of schedule. There used to be a very clear pecking order by day of coolness of slate. Now it's kind of changing, it feels like. But yeah, enjoy wings last night. Don't feel great today, as I'm sure neither of you do as well. But yeah, kind of hunkering down here for the gorgeous slate that awaits us tomorrow.
Matt, I had a glorious hour of physical therapy this morning. I feel wonderful. The wings sat perfectly in my stomach, ready to rock. Hey, shout out to Jake Stevens. He was fantastic for Chattanooga last night. And I will acquiesce to Pat Taylor's request. Louisville, they are 1-0 in their last one games. So shout out to the Cards. Got a big win on Wednesday. Looking for a winning streak tomorrow. We'll discuss that on tomorrow's show. But let's get into tonight. Start with the headliner of the evening. That would be Creighton headed to Marquette. Man, Kai, if you told me before the season that the market would say these teams are equal on a neutral floor, I would have said you're crazy.
Yep.
You are insane. Why don't you get into an asylum, Kai? I'm sick of your ramblings. But that's what we're being told here. Marquette -3 at home. Whew, what do you think?
Yeah, Kalkbrenner likely out. Creighton still not the same, or excuse me, clearly not the same without him. But having said that, this is still a really good team, Matt, in my opinion. Creighton, they've lost 5 straight. That's a fact. But 2 of those losses, they were an underdog. It was Arizona and Texas. Creighton covered both. Last game against Arizona State, Fred King stepped up tremendously in Kalkbrenner's stead, 16-11. He's averaging 4 blocks now and 2 starts. That's something for them. Now, Marquette looks awesome. Their home court is really good. I think Creighton can handle the rock. I think they have multiple ball handlers to handle Marquette's press, Marquette's pressure in the half court as well. The question is, can King man the middle? Because Marquette has been excellent scoring inside the arc this year, top 5 in the country, 2-point field goal percentage. They score at will in the paint. I thought 4 was high. It's come down to 3 at BetRivers. Probably a more appropriate price. I still lean towards Creighton though here.
I don't at 3. My brain's all over the place in this one, Jim. So I'm just going to give a bunch of conflicting dynamics and ultimately I have no opinion here. Like listening to McDermott recently talks about how the schedule really caught up to them and I think played a part in the recent demise on top of the Kalk injury thing. Like it's the league opener, but they played Saturday and they played Monday. I'm a little worried about the schedule. Like that's 3 games in 6 days. It could have some weird legs as well. Marquette at home, very real home court. We've talked about that before. So all that kind of leads me to think, man, this -3 is kind of a cheap price, but my gut was screaming Creighton, like yours was, Kai, initially. So I kind of let that deter me from laying the cheap bargain price at -3 on the Golden Eagles, Jim.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that this is -3 and Creighton has taken money without Kalkbrenner or assumed without Kalkbrenner. They're +30 when he plays per 100 possessions. They're only +6 when he sits. Like I know Fred King has been really productive, but I mean, that's a 24-point swing. I think some of the things that are less evident in the box score, he's not as good at positioning, his timing with rolls and stuff on offense. He's such an elite finisher. He's a perfect match. He's like big time wall up guy. He's become less of a like block 4 shots a game guy and more of a affect every kind of shot. He doesn't get in foul trouble. That's big time. I think his absence is going to be huge. I was all geared up. Probably preseason would have been home run, like, oh, Shaka underdog spot here against Creighton. I still think they'll be up because it's a preseason Big East favorite. But yeah, I wish Marquette was an underdog. That would be great. Matt, you mentioned Creighton's McDermott's comments about the schedule. Like, I didn't even think about it like explicitly going Island, back home rivalry game, Vegas 2 games, back
Vegas,
home now,
back Midwest.
Yeah, like they've been kind of all over the place. It's been rough. So my number actually sort of leans Marquette because I'm not Creighton a lot without Kalkbrenner. I think he's super, super important. The sophomores aren't quite there yet, but I'm not going to bet it. I'm going to stay away. Kind of like you guys. I don't think Creighton's is bad. I think the sophomores will at some point stand up and have a really home run performance as a group. All right, let's stay in the Big East. We'll head to DC. Georgetown hosting Xavier. Xavier about a 10.5 right now at BetRivers, 10.5 point favorite. Totals come down a shred, just a little bit. Matt, going to you first here. What do you think of the Muskies on the road in a Big East opener against the Georgetown team that hasn't won a Big East game in, checks notes, at least a year?
Yeah, I don't think they're getting it tonight, Jim, but I think that it is competitive-ish. And by competitive-ish, I mean they play within 11 points and they cover. I do like Georgetown tonight. I know their home value is basically like 0. They're basically giving away tickets for free. We've made jokes about that. And it's been like a non-existent home court for years. But I think the reset of the first conference game will reinvigorate this team, which still is super talented. Like Brandon Murray, Cook. They have guys, Wahab up front. And that's the key. Look at Wahab and Cook, their length. I think that's enough for me to prevent a complete bloodbath inside from Xavier's bigs. Like, I think Xavier's bigs are better. They're going to probably have success. Georgetown's defense is completely discombobulated structurally. But I think just the sheer talent and the roster oomph, I guess, on Georgetown, coupled with the rest edge and the kind of reset mental, light bulb, whatever you want to call it. I think that just gives me a visceral gut scream toward the Hoyas guy.
Yeah, you don't see double-digit home dogs in conference play very often, hardly ever at all. You especially don't see it in power conferences. You especially don't see it in the first game. You especially don't see it with a team as talented as Georgetown. And I know Georgetown's coaching situation is terrible, but this team does have talent, like Matt said. If Ewing and his squad are not motivated today to, number one, restart their season after a bad start, and number two, bounce back from an 0-20 Big East slide last year, then they'll never be motivated, and they should fire him right after this game. This should be a max effort game for Georgetown. It is a coaching mismatch. Xavier's a much better team. I've watched both teams several times, but I think Georgetown hangs within double digits tonight. In fact, it's my best bet. Georgetown plus 10.5. I hate it, but I love it. Go Hoyas.
Brave. I respect it, Kai. I got a number that I think supports you, and I think will hopefully convince people that you're not crazy. We know Georgetown's bad and has been bad pretty frequently recently, but they're really good as an underdog. Georgetown plays up. Ewing gets them to play up. His last 20 games as a double-digit favorite, which Georgetown's been a double-digit favorite more than 20 times in his tenure. That's incredible. Bad in itself. Yeah. But they're 14-5-1 against the number. Like, that is really good. They're near 75% as a double-digit dog. They play up. They're not going to get run out of the gym. You get the talent to play hard against a better opponent. I think we will see them, especially in a game with relatively big stakes. This isn't like they're 0-15, like the start of conference play, new season. I think it makes a lot of sense here to be on Georgetown. I'm backing you up there, Kai.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, they were basically tied with Texas Tech late in that second half. Like, I think you could see them getting down 15 early and then kind of mounting a stupid comeback. Like, this has backdoor cover written all over it too.
I kind of fear it's the opposite. I feel like Georgetown's going to get a pretty big lead,
and Xavier just runs them away at the end.
We're going to be sweating the last 4 minutes.
Well, they play one good half every game. You just don't know which half it'll be.
Right. So how bad will the bad half be? That's what we're kind of hoping for.
Hopefully not that bad.
Last year when they covered a bunch of double-digit dogs, it was getting down 25 and then backdooring and
garbage time comeback. We'll take it again.
Georgetown. Yeah, give
that's
it to
the
us.
path.
They all count
There's
the same.
path.
They all count the same. All right, next one up. We're going to Olean, Florida Gulf Coast at St. Bonaventure. I was surprised to see Gulf Coast taking money here, Kai. And here's why. Bonaventure's covered 11 straight games at home. They're an awesome home team. Fantastic. They're 5-0 against the spread at home this year.
Yep.
This is a really short number to be covering. I respect Gulf Coast. I've backed them a couple times this year. I think this number is too short. I'm leaning pretty hard towards Bonaventure. Considered it as a best bet, but didn't quite make it that. What do you think?
It's down to 3. So the 4 that I took today was anti-market. I'm not totally surprised. Florida Gulf Coast is good. Everyone knows it. They beat USC. But you mentioned the Bonnie's home record, man. 5-0, almost a +6 cover margin at home. They're not beating terrible teams either. It's a tough place to play. They're very well coached. I know Florida Gulf Coast is very talented. I do like their coach as well, Pat Chambers, but it's a weird road trip. Matt, they're staying in the upper New York State after this game, playing Canisius next week. I assume they're hanging out from today through Wednesday. I don't know.
Going to Niagara Falls for 7 days.
It might be.
The Hornblower.
Yeah,
or the
Hornblower. I don't know.
There's the dueling
Lady
tours.
of the Lake. I can't remember the U.S.
There's
side.
a U.S. one and a Canada one. They do the same tour. Anyway, Kai, back to your analysis.
Bonnie's the much better defensive team in this game. I think they can find success at home. Both teams are due for a little shooting regression. Bonnie's, their opponents, the 5th worst 3-point percentage in the country. Florida Gulf Coast, their opponents, the 10th worst free throw percentage in the country. I'd probably call that wash, whatever. I don't pay attention to that too much. I like the Bonnies here, Matt. -3, definitely.
It seems to. I actually kind of like Florida Gulf Coast. Good. I'm just a big fan of Pat Chambers and this team.
As am I.
But you're right. I think the improvement trajectory that the Bonnies are on right now, coupled with the fact that they're at home, and I also don't know how well Florida Gulf Coast will execute against whatever zone or junk defense Schmidt decides to deploy here. That's always kind of the wrinkle with Schmidt. He's kind of surprise you on the defensive end. And their offensive execution is always there. It's just a matter of how good is the talent, and the talent always improves because Schmidt is a player developing whisperer, as he's long been known. So I stayed away, Jim, but my gut does feel like Florida Gulf Coast just the better team, and that maybe St. Bonnie's due for a little bit of a stinker in this lull of finals week.
Wrong.
Okay. Sorry. Thought I tried.
We'll see. I'm with Kai. I'm on a bad number at -4.
Do you think
had no
Gulf
idea
Coast is a better team? You would have this below 3?
On a neutral, I'd have Florida Gulf Coast slight favorite. Yeah. I really like this Gulf Coast team.
Interesting. I guess I can't punish them for losing by 30 to Florida.
Look at their
Florida
roster.
beats everybody by 30.
I saw a comment in the chat
top
that,
10 team, so it doesn't matter.
I saw a comment in the chat that Bonnie's not a good favorite. They're 5-2 against the spread as a favorite.
I know. Anecdotally, they're not a good favorite, but they have this.
All of those are at home. They're 5-0 as a home favorite this year. They've covered 11 straight home games. Like it's not a complete
tough place split.
Jinx. Yeah, or maybe it is a jinx, but
probably is a jinx now. Right.
Yeah. Whoops. All right. Next up on the outline, Missouri State at Oral Roberts. It gets kind of grim quickly on the slate today, guys. There's not a lot of juice, a lot of meat on the bone. But Matthew, you sounded like you found some value in this one.
Yep, best bet coming up, and it's a 20-minute subsection bet, Jim. A first half, Oral Roberts -1.5 is my best wager of the evening. The line got pounded up to -8 this morning. It actually opened higher than I thought it would at -6.5, I believe. It's very clearly the market is sniffing the stench that's coming out of Missouri State. At least that's what I'm sniffing. A lot of local reports bemoaning the offense that Dana Ford is running, which basically is no offense. On top of the fact they lost their point guard, Matthew Lee, earlier in the year. Compounding effect has ruined this offense. They just attempted a program record 41 threes last game. This is not an offense or roster that should be shooting 41 threes. That's not by design. That's by lack of better alternative. Defensively, they're not great either. Just a lot of issues. And I'm looking to fade it. And I think Oral Roberts riding a little red hot streak coming off Mr. Max Asmus, 2,000 point club. Congratulations, Mr. Max. Hopefully no letdown hangover in this one after that kind of like coronation thing last game, but I think they're just better and they emphatically stop on the Bears.
Kai?
Excuse me. Passing to me. Thank you.
I kind of left it as a dead spot there. Sorry. No transition. It's bad. Yes. It's unprofessional.
I like Oral Roberts as well in this game. Full game number is pretty high. I think you're on the right side with the first half. Their resume looks pretty good right now. Their only losses are at St. Mary's, at Houston, at Utah State. Just about every team in the country loses those games. And now they're hosting a Missouri State team, Matt, that I agree is kind of in disarray. You do see the fan forums calling for Ford's head already. The pieces just haven't meshed very well. It's a team of totally new players, except for one guy, Donovan Clay. They went 7 for 41 from 3 last game. That's not good. That's probably going to correct itself, but still not great. And the continuity here, Jim, between Oral Roberts and Missouri State, the players, it's not even close. One team's well-oiled. One team is still figuring things out. So I do lean towards Oral Roberts here, even at 7.5, 8 points.
Yeah, we've pretty consistently thought of Dana Ford's teams as better at home too. They get a little bit of a juice. The pressure, the energy they fly around with is definitely more significant at home. Now they head to the Maybe Center, Matthew, at Oral Roberts, a place I tried to break into last summer when I was driving back from Las Vegas. Break into is a
successfully
loose term. No, I failed. I just checked a couple doors. I didn't try to break in. But you get the best player on the floor with Asmus. You get the better coach. And you get a defense that's actually a little better than I realized. Oral Roberts, not the total sieve that they've been in the past.
Hunter Vanover.
Vanover's completely made scoring inside much more difficult. He's an alien. He's like a human walking stick, like the bugs. He's so long and skinny. But their 2-point percentage defense is actually much, much better than it's been in the past. And if teams stop making threes at 38% against them, they'll actually look like they have a good defense. So I'm with you, Matt. Lean towards Oral Bob. I adjusted them up recently. Haven't been giving them enough credit for some of their results. Just couldn't quite get there on the number. I hope you roll in the first half.
I hope I do too.
All right, let's go to Chat Mob. First section here. Matthew, I believe you are my czar.
I am. Leg Show Magazine asked about the Manhattan game under. We don't have that on the outline, do we? No. It sounds right to me, Kai. Ugly, gross. I guess key question mark is Josh Roberts from a personnel perspective.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I don't know which way that would go. Josh Roberts is their big guy. He's a really good shot blocker, good defender. You could argue that could actually skew towards the over if he's out. No play on the total there. I lean towards Manhattan on the number on the side, even with those guys in question.
Yeah, they've been shorthanded. Both Manhattan has. We'll see though if those guys are back. I think they had flu, so I don't know. We'll see.
Renzo Bros asked about Mississippi Valley State Tulsa. That is on the outline. Renzo Bros. Yes, my Delta Dogs are on the outline. So stay tuned for that conversation coming up. Man, not a lot else. Ryan asking about Youngstown State -7 against Southern. I think they took some money early today. The Penguins did, I believe. It got bet up to -8. I don't have a strong take here, guys. Right now, Southern's interesting, Jim. They play really hard defensively, but they foul like crazy. So I just think their games end up turning into free throw shooting contests with just too much variability to get involved in.
Youngstown State, really good free throw shooting team. So if you're into that, then I think it kind of tilts a little towards the Penguins.
Yep.
The only thing that would spook me is a lazy finals week effort against a SWAC team that's up doing a little bit of a road trip, but Youngstown State's way better.
Xavier only shot 18 free throws last game, and I say only because I believe they were in the bonus 5 minutes into the first half or something.
It was 3 minutes into the second
3 minutes in the first half. Okay. Or second half. Well, there you go. Yeah. So free throws will be pivotal if you're back in the Penguins there. Last one here from our King Russ. We're happy to break down Avatar 2. I don't really have any hot takes on it, but as an aside, haven't seen it. Well, Jim, obviously we didn't see it last night. We were consuming wings. Green Bay, Stanford. Line feels high to me.
On the outline?
It's on the outline too, man. All right, let's go back to the outline. There's no
outline's bleak
for two sections of chat mob today. Yeah,
dig hard. Yeah, I mean, there's probably going to be 3 games we haven't discussed yet that we can do in chat mob section 2. But back to the outline. That would get us to Delaware at Princeton. Matt, you successfully backed the Princeton Tigers for a squeaky cover against Iona. Close. We somehow middled that together. My 5.5, your +7. Rock on. That was fun. How do you see your Tigers today? Are they going to be on the right side of another cover?
I think it's a tough spot for him, man. That was a big game. Henderson talked about it before coming in, how hyped they were, how dialed in they were, gave a hell of an effort for 30 minutes, and then the Iona pressure just got to him late down the stretch. Coming back here to play Delaware on 2 days rest, I think Delaware started to find itself. Jair Davis, their star, was sort of not great to start the season. It seems like he's playing much better as of late. Not a great matchup, though, against Princeton because I think their strength is inside, which can negate Davis. I don't know, Kai. I did think the opener was a little bit too high at 8. Now it's down to 7, so I got no action.
I know. I was kind of hoping it would go the other way. I was going to step in on Delaware, but the market is betting the Hens, and I agree with the move. They haven't been terrible this year. They struggled out of the gate for sure, and you mentioned that with Davis. They've beaten Colgate and Davidson, though, this year. They've beaten Siena, which is kind of a good win now. And they have a very talented duo with Davis and Jameer Nelson Jr. But Princeton's awesome. They have no good wins. They did lose to Navy and Hofstra. They barely beat Marist Northeastern, but a couple blowout victories has them pretty high in the analytics. I was very impressed with them against Iona. The question here, Jim, is will Delaware's defense be disciplined enough to stop all the cutting action of the Princeton offense? I say TBD there. Their defense has been kind of a sieve this year. Tigers likely score at will. I do think Tosan is a good matchup on Davis, like Matt hinted at. I just think 7 points might be a little bit too high. I think Delaware can hang around.
Yeah, I took the 8, Kai. So I think that coming down makes sense. I agree with it. But yeah, Princeton is really solid and kind of a different version. This isn't like the Tosan and 4 shooters. They're just going to bury threes and play no defense. Like, they have size. They're more of a rim team. I saw somebody in the chat mention Keyshawn Kellman. He's been fantastic for them. He'll probably help out on Davis. So I kind of lean towards the over as well, but that's more, it might be a wrong thinking because this is such a different version of Princeton than we've seen in the past. So yeah, like Delaware, not giving it out at the current number, but I think it's going to be closer than 7 would be my guess. All right, next up, Matt, you tried to get to it, but you got to wait and talk about it now. Green Bay, the Phoenix, heading out west to Stanford, a team we don't think of as a super strong big favorite. Numbers tick down ever so slightly. Seen Stanford -24 at BetRivers right now. Any take for you on side or total?
I'm going to hockey pass this one to Kai because he was in person for Wisconsin versus Stanford, which very interesting parallel with this matchup. I'm not going to say Wisconsin Green Bay are carbon copies, but they have many similarities in how they play. Obviously, Green Bay coached under Will Ryan. He does employ a lot of the swing principles, although he's tried to modernize their offense to some degree. But it's like from Stanford's angle, they basically played a way better version of the team they're going to play today in a baseball stadium with like the worst situation. They didn't fare well in that game, Kai. Like, does that bode well for them here? That was like the only angle I was trying to pick apart, but I don't know. I feel like I was reaching.
The Stanford-Wisconsin game?
Yeah. That's like a correlator to this
one.
one.
Zero stock in that game. It was in a baseball stadium. It was impossible to see. It was gross all around. This is Green Bay's third game in 6 days. They're traveling from Minnesota. They just played St. Thomas. They are missing Garen Davis and Ziegler, one of their main ball handlers. Probably still out. I don't know. Finding information on Green Bay is very hard. We know they're bad, but my question here is, will there be enough possessions for Stanford to win by more than 25 points? I'm not sure. They have blown out a team this year. They blew out Cal Poly. I think that's pretty impressive.
It is.
But Pacific hung around, and this is by far the worst team Stanford has played. They will have no answer, and they'll have no answer in the paint. Renaud, Maxime Renaud, he's French. He's going to have a huge game. Physically, there's nobody that really matches Jones or Ingram, though Ingram's been kind of bad this season. This game, though, Jim could play in the low 60s possession-wise. And even though Green Bay might not score 50, 25 is too many points for me to lay.
Yeah, this was a stay away. Green Bay, they've been a big dog twice. They got blown out by Georgetown, of all teams, but then they mucked it up with Wisconsin, which they do every year most of the time. Or at least they slow the game down. I don't think they've covered the last two, but they did cover this year. They hung around in that one. Stanford feels closer to Wisconsin than they do to Georgetown in the sense of playing slower, like you said, Kai. A team that's going to be in the half court and not overwhelm them with possessions and athleticism in the open floor like Georgetown did. So I would probably lean a little bit towards Green Bay here, but not something I'm betting. I don't love these teams going 2 time zones away for a strange road trip. I mean, I guess they're staying west and going to Oregon State after this, but it's just not super appealing to me. So it feels like a good stay away. Next up, Chicago State at Southern Illinois. Big in-state battle here. I wanted to get the Cougs on the slate because
I love it.
They've been my most whack-a-mole team of the entire season. I can't get on the right side, no matter if I'm backing them, fading them. It just doesn't work for me. So no surprise, hard stay away here. My number does lean the Salukis, but I don't want to mess with Chicago State right now. They're actually playing really well, especially on offense. Yeah,
there was a time when fading Chicago State was automatic. You would make a lot of money by doing that. But now they've covered 3 in a row. They've covered 4 of the last 5. They're 7-5 against the spread overall, and they have outright wins against Valpo and Southern Indiana, Matt. This is not your father's Chicago State team. This is not your older brother's Chicago State team.
No, it's certainly not.
It's a brand new team. Also, Southern Illinois. I love this team. I love their coach. I love their players. 1-7 against the spread last 8 games. Not great. They have a ton of experience. I don't really know why they're not living up to expectations ATS wise. They do go in against Oklahoma State, but a couple other efforts have been very questionable. They don't really crash the glass. SIU gets back in transition. That's kind of their thing. So Chicago State's awful defensive rebounding is not really going to hurt them that much. Maybe the transition takeaway hurt Chicago State, TBD. The line might be a little bit low, but I'm not fading the Cougars anytime soon. They're one of the most unpredictable teams in the country, in my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of think SIU suffocates them on defense. I really do. I know you mentioned they've been struggling, Kai, against the spread, but I look at the results, like a couple of bad spots sprinkled in there, like Indiana State. Alcorn State's the ultimate feisty Tarleton type dog. I don't put a ton of blame on them for that one. They beat a good Cal Bap team. I think this team's still really good. UNLV, they were controlling that game for most of the first half. They're awesome defensively. I'm all the way in on their defense. It's just can they score enough to cover the number, right? Against Chicago State's defense, I kind of think they can. But I think Jim made the best point, which is Chicago State looks like really good right now. I mean, the fact that you went into Martin and you came back, went to OT, and then went to Murray State 2 days later, whatever, and then basically almost beat Murray State, like that team's really good. So, yeah, I'm not trying to fade Chicago State, plain and simple.
Yeah, I think there's a chance Chicago State cracks after
Just
those
cracks,
two efforts.
100%. Yeah,
huge comeback against Martin, go to overtime, lose. Huge collapse against Murray State, lose. Like that's got to be deflating. Those 2 games back to back. You stay on the road here against an SIU team that's going to play you super physical. I don't think the Chicago State team is going to quit. I think they're too well coached, but it does feel like it's just this isn't our best effort. We're not going to be there. I do think Chicago State makes tough shots, and you have to do that against SIU's D because they take away a lot of the easy stuff. You're not getting cuts or layups, and they've got some individual creators with Cardette and Corbett. Those guys can score, but it's a stay away from me, unfortunately. Last one on the outline, Matthew, you said it. Your Delta Devs, they are here. They're headed to Tulsa, continuing a road trip. They were just at Wichita State. Do you think MVSU can keep it close against a Tulsa team that's still pretty young and figuring itself out under new coach Eric Conkle?
Yeah, I do. I think Tulsa's bad. Like, I think Conkle is basically like, I don't know if we have the right guys here to run what I would run. So I thought this Tulsa team would be really good. I kind of like the roster on paper, and I like Conkle as a coach, but you put them together and it just hasn't fit that well. Now, I do think this is kind of an exam week, maybe lull spot that Mississippi Valley State could pounce on. Maybe get one of those Terry Collins against Mizzou games when he's just going off, making every shot under the sun. This game stays closer for longer than you think, Kai. And we saw Tulsa play with its food. Was that last week? It's not a good team as a favorite. So a lot sets up for Mississippi Valley State. I didn't bet them, but I would lean that way pretty hard.
Yeah, I don't know if Tulsa's been that great or that bad, really. But as a 21-point favorite, I don't like them as that for sure. Mississippi Valley State has been kind of feisty this year against the spread, kind of like Chicago State. They're 7-4 against the spread. They're also 7-3 to the under, which I think is the real play here, and I'll kick it to Jim in a second. But they play really slow. They're terrible offensively. Their last 5 games, they've scored 48, 52, 38, 45, and 51 points. They're just not scoring a lot of points right now. And even though Tulsa's shown a willingness to run under Conkle, their offense just isn't that powerful to overwhelm and score 90, 100 points tonight. Sam Griffin's the best player on the floor. He's Tulsa's best player. He'll get his, but I think the Delta Devils can get a little scrappy here and keep it within 21. Lean towards the under as well, Jim.
Yep, under. Best bet for me here. Please, no overtime. It's a 20-point spread. There shouldn't be overtime. Freaking overtime. God, it's infuriating. But Matt, what you said about the sleepy spot finals week, I think is big for the under, where Tulsa's not like locked in to run it up the gut every time down the floor and push the pace and get into quick shots. And like I said, Mississippi Valley State is crawling under George Ivory offensively. They're slow. They don't have anybody that can put the ball in the basket. So they're just trying to muck the game up and keep it as ugly and slow as possible, give them a chance to hang around. I love the under here. I know it's been bet up a point in the market, which surprised me a little bit. Maybe they see the Delta Devils as a pace taker against Tulsa, but I don't think Tulsa's going to push it as hard, like I said. So yeah, under 136.5. That would be my best bet. We've revealed all our best bets now, so that's just going to be going through the motions at the end. But Matt, anything else from the chat mob before we recap?
No, nothing.
Yes,
wait, no, yeah, sorry. South Florida -11 versus Dartmouth from Matt B. I mean, I don't know. South Florida, I think, is actually improving a little bit. Dartmouth's starting to kind of tank. I know they have had some injuries here. Jim, any questions or any take on this game, I should say?
Yeah, Dartmouth's a different team without Cornish. He's their best shooter. He missed last game. I don't know how they came back and snuck inside the number against BU after getting down 21-2. But I am not anxious to back them here. And Keyshawn Bryant, who warmed up for South Florida last game, but then sat, is supposed to be available and play. And I think that helps South Florida.
Apologies. The biggest, most interesting game for me, we have not discussed, and the chat is blowing up the forum right now as they should. Cal Poly, Weber State, Mr. McKeon. This game is at Cal Poly. The Mustangs just went into Seattle and scared the pants off of Washington. The Huskies had to go to a full court press to pull off a late victory there. Now they return back home. Quick turnaround, I will say. Despite the fact they are at home, it is a quick turnaround. I like Weber State. A known betting group bet Cal Poly earlier today, pushed the line up to 6. And for that, I thank them because I hopped right in on my Weber State Wildcats.
Yep, Raz took -4 Cal Poly. Cal Poly is a way better team, but Weber State is getting a little scrappier, I think, Matt. We've read some good things about their squad. I would not bet +5.5 right now, but I would lean towards your way.
Dyson Kohler, and Junior Ballard both used to play on Cal Poly. Now they're on Weber. We talked about the revenge angle. Those guys are just like
We
dishing
tracking
out
the revenge
insider
angle?
scouting. Oh, no, I haven't been. It just feels like it wins a lot. So I don't know.
The
Add
data
that to
says
the
72% ATS.
yeah.
Wow, man,
So
go
lock,
with it.
boom, hit it. It's I think down to 5.5 now. I'd wait for 6. If you can find a 6 out there, I think I'd.
It's not getting back 6. I don't think it was down again.
Yeah,
People
not
took it.
when Raz gave out 4. If it ever gets 4 again, people are just going to hammer it again. So I lean towards Weber too, but it's not in the outline, so I won't belabor it. Anything else, Matt, from chat?
Do
we hit every game?
Incarnate Word Bethune Cookman. I like Bethune Cookman. That's all I have to say on that one.
Cool. Yeah, Bethune is so erratic. They have more talent than they've shown this year, but I don't know that they're altogether very well
Bethune
coached.
smacked Chicago State, which looks really impressive. That's something I never thought I'd say. So
yeah, that felt like the Chicago State cracking game. That was the game I backed Chicago State, and they got smashed by Bethune. So awesome. All right, I believe
I'll
that
keep
is
it. Best bets.
Yeah, recap.
Oral Roberts first half -4.5.
Beautiful.
It's a winner.
Kai.
Georgetown +10.5. Yikes.
Yikes, he says. Okay, he's very excited about it. And I am Tulsa, Mississippi Valley State under 136.5. That's it for today. Make sure you like the video. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do that. Help out Field of 68 Best Bets. That's it for today. Holy cow. We got a big one tomorrow. So we're going to be geared up, amped up for it tomorrow, 10:15 a.m. Central. See you all there. I'm sure we'll go right up to 11 a.m. talking all kinds of games, but we're excited for it. Enjoy the Friday. See you back here tomorrow. Cheers.